So let's talk about Diddy and what apparently was another one of the worst kept secrets in an industry. And I have a few other people that we may or may not remember on the thumbnail. There's Harvey Weinstein, Steen, however you say it. And that was another one that was one of the worst kept secrets. And Mac, I don't know, and Jeffrey Epstein, another one of the worst kept secrets, apparently. Now, why do I say these were the worst kept secrets? Did I necessarily know what was going on? No. I didn't know nothing. I'm not in those rooms. I'm just a little old me recording on YouTube. But apparently, after each one of these cases went public, all these well connected people in the industry, in each of these respective industries, I don't know what industry Jeffrey Epstein was, but I know Harvey Weinstein was more like film and Diddy is more the music industry. But after all these situations kind of blew up, all these well connected people, high profile people come out and say, oh, I saw it. Oh, I knew it was happening. Oh, everyone knew. Oh, yeah, I had a story. I had a this, I had a that. uh mm, Let me backtrack. We'll get into it. So this Diddy indictment. Recently, I think, look, I didn't even get the date. Because honestly, it's a little bit stuff like this is a little heavy to talk about, but I do want to highlight a particular thing that kind of relates to my more political videos that goes on in these high profile cases. So recently, Diddy was indicted in the Southern District of New York on several counts, I think maybe four, after what seems like, it's the why now, what took so long, da 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 da. Da. I do know that, and I don't follow Diddy and this crowd very closely, but I do know that one, what took so long? Took so long with each of these people that I have? Each of these people you see pictured up here, it always takes a long time for whatever reason. It's a culture of complacency, but this really kind of blew up, or in most people's eyes, this Diddy attention kind of blew up when his lawsuit with Cassie became public knowledge. And Cassie had a lawsuit that eventually settled, and then a little bit after it settled, there was a video of her. In the video, it appears that she's trying to leave a hotel, and we see Diddy putting his hands and feet on her, seemingly to drag her back to the hotel. And so that kind of created a whole bunch of noise around Diddy in the news. I think, this is just me, that even before the Cassie lawsuit, there was a period of time where Diddy wasn't the hot topic to talk about in the news or even in the blogs or this or that. But when he started dating Carisha from the City Girls, and a lot of people were like, what is she doing? Why would she date him? There's been rumors about him for years and this and that. To me, I would say that she brought him back into relevancy. Not saying that, I don't know, in terms of like who's more famous and this and that and the third. It's not necessarily about that. It's about who's the hot topic at the time. And I would say that Carisha was the hot topic. And when it came out that she was dating Diddy, then that relationship became the hot topic, which brought him back into the hot topic. That's what I would say. And then the lawsuit from Cassie, and then the settlement, and then the video, and then this. But timing wise, it just seems to me that all three of these people were whatever they allegedly or provenly were doing for years. And then it took a while before we got to some type of charges. There may have been lawsuits from people, but charges, criminal court and civil court, those are different. So I don't know how many lawsuits Diddy had before we got to actual charges. But as far as why charges took so long, I don't know. I don't know. All these allegations seem to be from, like, as I read, and I have the indictment. I'm not reading the whole thing. This ain't reading Rainbow. But it seems like they talk about situations from like 2016, from at least in or about 2008. This is the Southern District of New York. They don't play, but it could be that maybe they didn't have indictment worthy evidence until now, but just it would seem to me that some of this stuff dates back so long, nobody had evidence back then. I'll come back to it at the end, but I just have a thought about why these, and not just Diddy, but these types of things tend to take a while before anything's done. I just don't know. So let's get to some of the counts in the indictment, because I think that's a little bit important before I get down to my thought about worst kept secrets and cultures of complacency and who all needs to be held accountable for things. Okay, so count one in the Diddy indictment is racketeering. This is the RICO charge, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. That's where this charge comes from. We hear RICO a lot. We hear racketeering a lot. What it is this is a federal offense related to acts that you perform as part of acts that you are performing by way of an organization, organized crime. There we go. I don't know why I had a brain moment, but this is organized crime, but typically a business is related. So you and this business it's a machine of crime. That's how I look at it. I'm not a criminal attorney. And when we took criminal law, I'm not going to lie, I took criminal law in law school for the sole purpose of passing that portion of the bar. Because criminal law is difficult. Shout out to all of you criminal law attorneys. Shout out to anybody who deals with this each day. There are different areas of law. I don't down anyone's area, but I know in particular that criminal law it takes a very intelligent attorney. Anyway, so in this count, this is count one. So usually the crime is related in some way to something that has an effect on interstate commerce. That's how we kind of get it into that federal area. Interstate commerce means that, the way I explain it, which is very simplistic, from one state to another. So there's a certain thing called federal jurisdiction, and we have to figure out what things that the federal government can constitutionally have control over. And one of those things is things that affect interstate commerce directly from the Constitution. Interstate commerce is things that go from one state to another. So once, and this is anything, once something goes from one state to another, usually that's the introduction to, if anything were to come down, it's going to be federal. Could you be in state court at the same time for something? Sure. But could the federal legal system also pick it up? Usually once it moves from state, move states, that's what happens. So this count one alleges that in his organization, he relied on his business, employees, resources of his multifaceted business empire to lead and control and create a criminal enterprise. So, he was relying on employees to do dirty work. Did they know or should have known they were doing dirty work? And most people will say, you can't put it all on the employees and this and that. Okay, that's fine. So that's count one. Count two, and this wasn't the longest indictment that I've kind of ever seen. this racketeering section was very charged. I mean, was very long and charged with a bunch of information. Oh, before we move on to count 2, in this racketeering section, it says from at least in or about 2009 up into and including 2018, these conducts, that these allegations have happened. And it just, again, it's not just Diddy where we see a delayed reaction, but he hasn't exactly been in hiding from 2009 to 2018. And if this conduct has been going on, were you guys just notified of it? You know, those things would be nice to know. Oh, it would be nice to hear the legal team say, and they can't say everything, but one thing that can be said is, oh, well, we've been investigating it, but we didn't have the type of evidence that we needed to, you know, formally bring charges. Or one thing I tend to tell people is keep in mind that our legal system, keep in mind that in the US, our legal system is what I would describe as passive. Not passive in that we don't go after people, but passive in that if someone is committing a crime and no one knows about it, no one knows about it. Typically, the crime has to be reported, and then we begin an investigation. Or in some way, the crime has been brought to the attention of law enforcement, and then we have to do an investigation. The legal system doesn't just wake up and charge. There's steps to getting there. So it could be a situation that we never had charges, or when we did have allegations or when someone did report it, we never had quite enough to do formal charges. We had enough to keep a file. We had enough to keep it in mind until someone else reported, but we never quite had what would have amounted to formal charges. It's possible. It's possible, but yeah, you know, whatever happens. Okay, going into count 2. Count 2 is the sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. And it's listed as victim 1. I don't know if this is centered around conduct pertaining to situations with one victim, or if that's just how they identified. Oh, nope, it's a person. So as I'm reading it, it says Combs recruited, enticed, harbored, transferred, and maintained a person, victim /A, and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused victim A to engage in commercial sex acts. Count 2. Count 3, transportation to engage in prosecution. I think that's self-explanatory. But I will note that this alleges from at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2024. Maybe it wasn't reported, or maybe it wasn't, because this is just victim 1 still. Yep, the intent that the individual engaged in. So maybe victim 1, who is the catalyst for these charges, because you have a victim, the victim brings forth allegations are investigated, and then the state or the federal government picks up the charges. So this isn't victim 1 suing Diddy. That's not how criminal charges work. When you're in civil court, it's person, entity, business, private citizen, whoever, suing XYZ. And you can even, I think you can have civil suits between like government contractors or government agencies and people, So that's what a civil charge is. When you're talking about criminal charges, it is not victim 1 suing Diddy, whoever victim 1 is. It is the federal government, the United States, we the people, against Diddy. So that's maybe what happened is that victim 1 either never came forth up until now, or victim 1 would come forth and there just wouldn't be quite enough up until now. It's possible. So So 1, 2, 3. I see 3 counts. I don't know why I thought there were 4 counts. I just see 3 here. Maybe it's not the updated paperwork. And then I see forfeiture allegations. And I think that as a result of the racketeering charge alleged in count 1, the defendant would need to forfeit. Defendant is Diddy. Would need to forfeit his interest, securities of, claims against, and property or contractual rights within that business that is alleged in the organized crime charge. So that is the indictment. Plain, simple, bad behavior. It's still technically allegations at this point. We have not went forth with the case yet. He's just been indicted. He was denied bail and he is in jail. And apparently it's not the very best of jails because it's jail, whatever. And he's having a hard time in jail. Okay. So my thoughts kind of around the situation. One of my main issues is, again, this whole issue of this being the worst kept secret. All of these people all of a sudden want to come out and go, oh, we synced. Or we synced it. We saw it. Oh, we were there. Oh, I have this one story. Oh, somebody told me, oh, well, my niece worked for, and then when she came back, she told me, oh, well, my cousin was an intern. And then they came back and told me. I understand logically that not everybody is always in the position to tell. Not everybody is always in the position, even if you wanted to be a brave person, maybe in that moment, being brave might be detrimental to you. And you have to take care of you. Maybe you don't have a lot of bargaining power in the situation. I understand. I get that. But some of what I don't get is that some of these people who are now coming out to be connected, and right now we're talking about Diddy. So a lot of these people who were around some of these parties where behavior wasn't the best, where some of the allegations from the indictment, some of this behavior took part at these parties. Some of these people were very high profile during the years that this behavior may have taken place, and chose to connect themselves to this man. But they were high profile in their own right. And some of these people weren't necessarily in the music industry with Diddy. And again, this same conversation could be had about Weinstein and Jeffrey, or whatever his name is, and Ghislaine Maxwell. I think that's her name. But particular Diddy, these are people who weren't necessarily in the music industry and were high profile in their own right. So maybe if they didn't feel comfortable speaking out, don't go to any more of his parties. Stop mentioning, distance yourself. You're going to the party year after year after year, but maybe these people didn't see anything. Maybe their eyes were wide shut. Maybe. Stuff like that just bothers me. Again, not to absolve Diddy of his behavior. However, if people do what they feel they can get away with. If someone doesn't feel they can get away with, if they know for sure, I do this, everybody gonna tell. 9 times out of 10, unless there's something psychological, they're not gonna do it. People do what they're comfortable with, what they're comfortable that no one else is gonna care about. So that always just kind of comes to mind, rubs me the wrong way. The artists that worked under Diddy's label that were trying to come up on money, and it's all types of things floating around where he didn't pay the contracts or bad, yaze. But I kind of understand the position they may have been in. maybe they weren't in the position to speak up, or maybe, I don't know, I don't know, but I get it. I just don't get some of these high profile people who probably didn't need Diddy to be where they are, were already where they are today. Big names who continued to be around him, and even these worst kept secrets. I'm gonna tell you something. Let's say I have a friend who, or someone, I have an associate. Let's say I have an associate and I never saw you do it. That only goes so far with me. After a few years of I never saw it, but everybody else has a story, as a high profile person, I might start to distance myself. This is just me. I might not be all in the video. I might not be all in the commercials, all at the parties and stuff like that. At some point, the very least, I didn't see you do it. But why does it come up the same story, the same way with all these different peoples? I'm going to pull back. But so those are people who have no duty to one another. As a private person, you don't tend to have very many duties to another private person. But there is another category of people. Any law officials, any, police officers who were called at one point, who got somewhere and got Star Trek, and maybe they didn't report like they were supposed to report. Maybe they didn't ask all the questions they knew they should have asked. Those people did have a duty to the citizens. And your job wasn't to be a fan in that moment. Anybody like of an official caliber that did have a duty by way of their position, I want them prosecuted and gone. I'm sick of it. And the reason I say that is, and this is unrelated but kind of related. There was a high profile case in South Carolina. The Murdaugh family. This man was found guilty of unaliving his wife and one of his sons. And that wasn't what got him there. What got him there was he had been he was an attorney, high profile attorney in the state and in that particular area. His daddy or somebody like that, their pictures in the courthouse that he was tried in, that type of stuff. And he was mismanaging client funds is what got to the point of him getting snitched on. Let me tell you one thing about attorneys. Attorneys have very strict rules we have to follow, and mismanaging client funds, if another attorney finds out at the same firm that you're mismanaging client assets, they need to tell. If they do not tell, what happens is if the bar finds out they knew and didn't say nothing, they might be up next to get their license snatched too. That is one big no-no. We learned that even in law school. That is a no-no. But he was mismanaging client funds. He got told on. His housekeeper had like a mysterious ending in his house, and then we get to these charges. But one thing that struck me about the case, and of course I was in it. Oh, it was some good TV. The one thing that struck me about the case was after the incident where he allegedly unalived his wife and one of his sons, he reported it to the police. The police were called, and it was a nighttime event. But the next day, there's a video of he invited all types of friends out to the property, and the police showed up the next day and kind of was speaking to him like, oh, I don't know what the conversation was, but as a police officer, and he knows because he was an attorney, you just contaminated the scene of an ongoing investigation. And it seemed from the video that the police officers weren't very forceful in what I imagine. I'm not a police officer, but what I imagine what should have been done was, hey, people can't be here. Even if this is your house, this is the scene of an ongoing criminal investigation because 2 people were shot here. So all these people that you invited, and as a police officer, this has been said out loud. I need everybody's names, numbers. I need everybody's address. And, you have the right to attorney. You do not have to speak to us. This is not an arrest, but we have to catalog everybody who was here. And that kind of would have put everybody on notice. We're not coming here anymore when he invites us because this is a scene of an ongoing criminal investigation. But the attorneys from the little video seem to be, oh, we're not going to be forceful with him. Oh, or the police officers, I mean. Yeah, they should. I can't help but feel they should have had charges too. They should have at least been fired. Do your jobs. No matter who it is in front of you, do your jobs. Even as an attorney, as a this, as a that, whoever you are, if your job as a police officer, and this is, I'm bringing it back to Diddy, and then we're going to check up about here. Anybody that owed a duty to the public by way of their position in life, who came in contact with any of this stuff alleged in the Diddy indictment, who did not follow their proper rules or procedure when faced with this conduct, I want their jobs. At the very least, they should be fired. I think we need to start holding, yes, the person who committed the crime accountable, but people who, by way of their formal position, judges, lawyers, those types of people, depending on what industry you're in, if there are high-level officials who are furthering this action, we have to at the very least start firing people. We do. Because if the culture is we're not going to say anything when anything's done, it could be your child going to work and not knowing that it's a Diddy up there. But everybody else at that company know that it's a Diddy up there. And don't nobody say nothing. Because that's just how we do. It could be any of y'all's childs going to work for a Weinstein. And everybody knows what goes on, but just nobody says anything. And your child get in a situation that ain't too cool because nobody just ever says anything. This is the culture. We don't say anything. We have to start getting, and I get it. Everybody's not brave. Everybody's not in the right position, but some people are. Some people are. And particularly when it comes to when we find out, oh, the police officer came, but they fanned out. Stuff like that. But I'm going to get off it. I'm probably not going to follow this story the closest because it is heavy. It's a heavy topic. It is triggering AF because it just went on for too long, go too far and stayed too long, but it is what it is. So getting off that. So there have been developments with the channel. So as you may have noticed, my content has kind of elevated a little bit. I'm starting to do a little bit more. Thumbnails are improving. Graphics are improving. Well, I found a coach. And if you would like to, see if I get this going. The Silver is a content creator on YouTube, and she does content creation coaching. If you would like to grow an existing channel, if you would like to learn how to create a channel, how to get started up with the channel, I want you to reach out to Da Silva and ask her about her ebook. I read the ebook. You see here on the screen, tips and tricks to grow a YouTube channel quickly. Best thing ever. Best thing ever. When you get the ebook, it comes with a coaching. Reach out to her for prices. It is affordable, but it is an investment. You will invest in yourself and learn how to do all these tips and tricks and enjoy coming on YouTube to create content. So that is my plug for the coach who helped me out. Please email her and get you started. And then as always, go to my website, inreblawg.com. If you want to see any written content, long form content, merchandise, all types of stuff, please visit the website and come back soon for the next video. Bye, guys.